All right. So I'm live. It's early in the morning, and this was not my plan. So, great rising, good morning, good day, happy Tuesday, happy Mars Day to everyone on YouTube, TikTok, Facebook. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Again, not the plan this morning, but hey, here I am. And I decided to do this live, honestly, to save space on my hard drive and my phone. That's really the honest reason I decided. So before I get started with the topic at hand, hi, I'm Inifa Danifa Omi Shango. I'm an Ifa priestess, spiritual awakening doula for the African American diaspora. And I'm also a mom who homeschools her children, and both of my sons are on the spectrum. So, and I say that because that will probably play into the tone of the conversation. And I am live in two places. So if I do this, that's because my cell phone is charging. That's where TikTok is. So y'all are on the stand, and my laptop's in front of me. So I just want to be polite and look at everybody. So the thing that triggered the conversation today was there's a video that's been circulating of where there's a teacher apparently, and he's discussing the the level at which children are performing, and they're not performing at their grade level. And it's one is the tone. So it's not even about the fact that the children are performing at grade level. There are a couple of things. One, it was the tone and the fact that you decided to publicly shame the children in your class. Like you decided to publicly shame the children in your class. Because if you're a teacher, that means chances are the kids that are on TikTok and things of that nature, they're going to see you. And then the other kids who are not in your class are also going to see you. And thus all these children are going to know, and because parents don't know how to keep their mouth closed and not talk about people, and their children learn these behaviors from them, now these children have to worry about other kids learning that they may not be performing well, they may not be reading well, and children, like, people will weaponize that. And it's already showing in the comments about them talking about how they talk about children. So that's kind of what sparked the thought. And you know, I have I think a unique perspective simply because of a couple of things. One, I'm Generation X, and they were talking about skipping kids ahead, which at least in my area was a thing when I was younger. At a certain point, if they were a certain age and a certain grade, they got moved ahead, mostly for safety reasons for the people that were younger in the same grade, like they were the people who were of the age in that grade. But the other thing is that, a lot of us Generation X were latchkey kids. Our parents had to work, and we would come home and we are the ones like doing our homework and things like that. And it wasn't because I personally, my parents were heavily involved in my schoolwork and things like that. Now, a lot of these parents are working a lot more jobs. And this is not to negate the influence of the home, but it is to give some color to, like, things have to move differently. And I think that's the conversation that should have been had, is how can we do things differently based on the world today? We keep trying to make the world yesterday. The yesterday is gone. Like, yesterday is gone. Yesterday is gone. So we need to learn how to live in the world we have today and start like, well, there are no good old days. It's today. Today's the day. What do we need to do today to help support and facilitate our children being prepared for life? And that's really what we want them to be prepared for life. Yeah, if someone wants to be a Rhodes Scholar and things like that, we help them prepare for that. But how do we help them prepare for life? And how do we encourage them and want them to be successful? What do you want? I will tell you when the iPad is ready. Thank you. Yes. Bye. Bye. Out. Out. Thank you. Appreciate it. Um, so understanding that, so I'm looking at a few things and I'm like, the first part is this is going to be event. The first part of this is it's going to be a vent. It's going to be a rant. That's what the first part of this is going to be. It's going to be a rant. And so I can get the frustration part off the chest, and then I will do the other part. So first part of this is some of y'all really hate children, and it shows. Some of y'all really have a disdain for children. You don't see them as humans, and it shows. And this is most especially the case for Black children. Check this out, and I will deal with it later. Thank you. Bye. Bye. You'll be fine. Put it down, and I will get it when I'm done. Thank you. All right. Bye. Jelani, one. You can wash it off. Take it into your bathroom, wash it off. One, some of y'all dislike kids. It shows in how you post them on. It shows how you talk about them on your content. It shows how you post them. You are perpetually posting children when they're having meltdowns and things of that nature. And this is going to go to all my Black people and Black parents. I saw a content creator, and he said this specifically about Black men, but I feel like this is about Black people in general. You took the whip out of master's hands, and instead of burning it, you chose to keep holding it. I'm going to say that again because I thought that was powerful. You took the whip out of master's hands, but instead of burning it, you keep trying to hold on to it and wield it yourself, and it's not yours to wield. It's not yours to wield. You keep trying to use a tool of colonization and slavery against your own children, and I really don't understand why you would continue to perpetuate that on your kids. And it shows in how you speak about them. You don't speak about them as humans, and then you turn around and say that when they don't speak about us in that fashion, it's not right. You're doing it to your children. And I know this is a wound, and I know this is trauma. This is a trauma response. People who are in abusive relationships and situations and have wounds and traumas will manifest this in different ways. They may become someone who advocates against abuse, or you will become an abuser yourself. And for some of you, you just decide, that there's a carryover of becoming the abuser yourself. So that's one. You don't actually see your children as people, and thus you don't treat them as people, and you don't move as people. Some of you also are still allowing society to dictate what's going to go on with your children. You haven't learned who your children are as people. Thus, you haven't learned what it takes to your child to learn. You haven't learned who they are. You haven't learned their learning style. You haven't learned their communication style. And so when they're not learning at the way that you feel like they should be learning because you would have learned it this way, y'all have two different communication styles. Y'all have two different learning styles. You have to learn the way your child learns to communicate. And I say that as a mother of two children on the spectrum. I can't communicate, teach, educate my children the way someone might do someone who is neurotypical. I can't. My children are neurospicy, and neither one of them learn the same way. So I have to learn their collective and individual learning styles. I have to learn their communication styles so that I can effectively, one, be their mom and partner with them on their journey, because their journey is theirs and my journey is mine. I am effectively partnering with them to ensure that they are successful in their growth and development. There's also the case is you can have a love and desire for teaching and be a horrible teacher. You can love and have a desire to want to teach. You grew up, you saw teachers, you think teachers are a wonderful thing. They help shape most society, and you suck at being a teacher. Everybody ain't a good teacher. That's also the case is every teacher isn't a good fit for every student. And we all know this. We all know we had these teachers and they fleeted from our memories. We grew up with teachers and we don't even remember their names. But then there's those other teachers that we wish we could have carried with us every single grade. There are teachers that if they're still around at the school, when we graduated or left those schools, we go back and visit those teachers because they had an impact. They were amazing teachers. They were amazing people. Some people are built to teach. Some people have a natural gift of being able to weave and mold the information in such a way that almost anyone can learn from them. But there is still an alignment with student and teacher. There's still an alignment with student and teacher. Everybody ain't gonna learn the same. And it's that moment where I feel like we're not paying attention. Like if I was gonna do it differently, the student is not learning from this teacher. And it's like they're not getting it. Change the teacher. This is where we apply the things we learn. Science, we do an experiment. Is this a will issue or a skill issue? Let's see which one it is. So let's put them in a different scenario, different situation, same information, and see if they're able to glean the information. And if they're able to glean the information from somebody else, then it is not the student nor the teacher. It is that they are not a good pairing. They don't go well together. That student shouldn't be in that classroom. It has nothing to do with the teacher's skill set or the student's ability to learn. It has everything to do with this student can't learn from that teacher. And I know that's the case because as someone who has peer mentored just individually, and even in my own household, there are certain things I can teach my children, and there's certain things my sister can teach my children because she's the one that comes over and helps them with their homeschooling. They learn differently with the two of us, and we have two different styles of doing things. I can't do it like her. Number one, because throughout life, she has established that that's her relationship with them, and thus that's what they expect from her. So when I decided to homeschool them, it was challenging because I spent 10 years with someone with children and her youngest children, teaching them how to read, teaching them how to do this, having school and things like that. I did that with those kids, but I was unable to replicate it with my own biological children. Why? Because that's not my role. That's not my role in their life. They have established I am mommy. I do mommy things. Mommy is not teacher. Mommy is mommy. So you do mommy things. Auntie comes over and auntie does teacher things. You do mommy things. Auntie does teacher things. So they've established who I am in their life. So I have to be creative. And one of the examples I gave in the video I just posted was that I left and right. Because again, both of my children are on the spectrum. So learning certain things took a little bit longer. I just drove around. When I'm in the car, they're disarmed. It doesn't feel like school. And that's our classroom. So I just drive around, tell them where we are, tell them street names, what's this, pointing things out, and also telling them which way I'm going. So now, not only do they know left and right, but they have a really crazy sense of direction. Because if they ask me for McDonald's or something, and I don't turn in the direction they know McDonald's is, Mommy, you're supposed to turn right. So not only have they learned left and right, they learned what different locations are in the community, and they learned that they're backseat drivers. It's not that I can't teach. It's one, I have to find the learning style for the student. I have to find the right setting for the student. My youngest son, before my older son, I started homeschooling him a few months ahead of the other one. When my other son, one of the last parent teacher conferences I had before I decided to go ahead and bring him home too, was she recognized my son was on the spectrum, even though the expression of his autism looks completely different from his brother. She recognized it immediately and moved accordingly. She said things like, if they wanted to do like puppet shows and things like that, my son was not for the group setting. My son wasn't for the group setting. He wasn't about that. But if she pulled him by himself, he would just emerge. She would just emerge and do all these things. If they ask questions, my son was not the one that's going to ask questions. And my son was not going to be the one that I shake. My son was not going to be the one to ask questions. That's not who he was, because that's not his personality. But she would pull him by the self. And not only did he know the answer to the questions, he knew things above his grade level. My other son is very much the same way. He is very, very much like, I'm not doing this in front of other people. But if you pull my son to the side, his actual teacher said, well, your son's not even reading on a kindergarten grade level. He said this in one of the IP meetings. I said, you a lie. I said, not only is Jaheim reading above the kindergarten grade level, I bet money he's like third or fourth grade. But she hadn't been able to pull that out of him. So when they finally, after me cussing and fussing, got someone to support my son in the classroom and she pulled him to the side, one of the last things she said to me was, your son can read sight words all the way through fourth grade. I know. I told you this. I knew this. My son's been reading. I told everyone when my son's autism presented, he would read before he could talk. He could read before he could talk. My son is a Gestalt language processor. That means as some neurotypical children typically learn sounds, that sounds come together as words, that words come together and make sentences. That's not how my sons learn, either one of them. They have a lot of echolalia. So my sons learn phrases. and they communicate through phrases. And that whole phrase may be the equivalent of one word within the phrase. This is where learning your children, learning how they communicate, understanding their learning style comes into play so that way you can effectively communicate with them. You can help them to communicate better, and you can also understand how it is that they're learning the information. We always want to talk about the kids not doing this, kids not doing that. But what are you doing? Peace Darcel, what are you doing to help these kids? What are you doing? Are you actually actively learning them? Are you actively learning who they are, how they're learning, and how to best support them in their learning? Because if you're not learning who they are, if you're not learning how they're learning, and you're not learning how to support them in their learning, how in the world are they going to be successful? Do you two pair well? Have you seen, like, y'all are bumping heads as teacher and student, and have you ever given the thought that maybe you're not their teacher? Maybe you're not their teacher. And we act like, again, children are not humans. You have worked for a boss that you couldn't stand. You couldn't stand. Move to a different one doing the exact same job. All of a sudden you flourishing, you shining. Why? Because that other person wasn't meant to lead you. That other person wasn't meant to lead you. Some teachers ain't meant for all students. They're just not. My son that I pulled out of school first, one of the things that happened that was like the straw that broke the camel's back, because she had already tried me by telling me, when I told her that my son needed support on pottying because he still was not quite there yet, that, well, we have a traditional classroom. Did you just tell a neurospicy mom with neurodivergent children how traditional your classroom was? Oh, okay. Board of Education immediately. And thankfully, I got it in writing. So this is what your teachers are doing when you have children with special needs in the classroom. You're telling the parent of the special needs child how they're not special and how traditional their classroom is, and that there's nothing they can do. And this was either her, one, because she knew better. She knew better. And she was Black. And this is why openness was Black. We keep holding on to master's whip instead of setting fire to it. We keep holding on to master's whip instead of setting fire to it. We keep trying to do the things that master did to our ancestors, to our children, and to each other, when we're supposed to be burning it all down. So that was strike 1, 2, 3, and 4. He had an IEP meeting. She was in the IEP meeting, but she contributed nothing. She was in the IEP meeting and absolutely contributed nothing. My son had been going to that school for a while because since he is autistic, he got to start going to school early. So he had already been in the building. But all of a sudden, this particular year, every time I said it's time to go to the school, he would cry. I pay attention. See, some of us don't pay attention to things. Well, you shouldn't cry. Why? Who told you that? Who abused you when you were a child? Who told you that crying was not a sign for you to pay attention to see what's going on and investigate and see why your child is seeing these things? They're not doing it for nothing. They're not doing it for nothing. Are they an actor? Like, you immediately go to the child's mind. You immediately go to their emotions mean nothing. Ato. You immediately go to the child's feelings mean nothing. That's where you start. You start with their emotion. You start with the invalidation of their emotion. I started with, why is my son crying this year when he has never cried going to this building? What's changed in the dynamic, the energy, the experience of this building, the reason why now my child is upset every time he goes? You act like when it's time for you to leave your job, you didn't know it ahead of time. You were exhausted every time you thought about going. You hated getting up in the morning. You were always frustrated. You always were irritated. You act like your children are not going to get the same type of signals. They're still humans. It's just going to communicate differently with them because they're children. You're not paying attention. So I paid attention. I'm like, something's up. So it was already in my head. I had already said to their dad, something's up with the school. I don't like it. Something's going on. Something's up. My other son, he didn't even want, like, so I'm going to go throw I'm going to throw the spiritual part in here. I am clairsentient, which means I feel energy. And both of my sons have inherited the gift. And one of my sons wouldn't even walk past his brother's classroom. And the teacher that supported my son, said she don't like walking down there either. Like I said, there's something different. There was something moving differently that wasn't moving that way before, and that's why my son was responding to it. The thing that broke the camel's back was she sent me a message in the little classroom thing, and she said, "Oh, I do have one good thing to say about your son." Immediately, I'm immediately okay. He managed to get to the classroom by himself. Wait, are you telling me my autistic, semi nonverbal son has been struggling to get to the classroom? Have you been letting my son struggle to get to the classroom? My autistic, nonverbal son, has he been struggling to get to the classroom and y'all not helping him? Oh, okay. All right. That day, letter of withdrawal and 3 pages on why I'm withdrawing my son. We can do bad by ourselves. We can do bad for ourselves. I loved school as a kid. And there was nothing more that I wanted for my children than to love school the way that I loved school. I wanted that for them. I loved school and I genuinely wanted them to love school the way that I love school. And they don't. They like learning, and they like learning in a way that feels good for them, but they don't love school. They don't love school. And so have to pay attention to those things. And I know they're learning because I've watched their speech improve. I've watched them show me things, and they know how to do certain things that I know I did not teach them. I'm like, how you learn to do that? Where you learn that at? They both go to speech therapy. They both go to ABA therapy. One has occupational therapy. And here goes the other piece, especially for my Black parents. If you see signs that might indicate your child might be neurospicy, test them. Test them. There is a wound because our children most especially, and shouts out to Professor Odie. If you're not following him, please follow him. Professor Odie and Lavere, I think his last name is Burton too, but both of them talked about the psychology and the APA and understanding that the APA was formed to indicate someone's behavior psychologically in proximity to white men. So if you are not a white man, you are already at the bottom. You are already divergent. You are already divergent if you were not a white man. And then that you be a Black child. And then there keeps talking about all these people now all of a sudden coming out as autistic. In 2014, that generation of children is the first generation of children with full access to the things that they would need if they had special needs. The first, 2014, that's only a few years ago. That's less than 10 years ago. So it's only been less than 10 years that they've even been able to test appropriately. It's less than 10 years that they've even been able to have the resources available to support them. And it's only within the last less than 100 years, they stopped unaliving children if they were born with a disability. They were unaliving children born with a disability. So think about being Black in that situation where we're already like trying to make sure that we're safe. And then all of a sudden you notice there might be something. And every Black family probably has that one family member that never got support or anything. They know this person is special needs, but they never got the support. They never got tested. And they always have that one, well, there's nothing wrong with him. There's nothing wrong with him. He's fine. He just learned a little different. He's just a little special. You know, we don't have to keep that generational cycle going. We can get our children tested. We can get our children tested. We can get them the support that they need. We can get them the resources they need, because it could easily be they learn different, because that's what that means. It means they learn different. They learn differently. And the truth is, everyone learns differently. Even now, like I'm mentoring whole adults right now. And one of the first conversations we have, and one of the things we ask them is, what is your learning style? Are you tactile? Do you like to read? Are you good with lectures? What is your learning style? What is it going to take for you to learn the material so that you can retain the information? And it also feels good, like you enjoy the learning process, because things that we enjoy, we retain it more. We retain it more. This is why people are learning so much on things like TikTok and YouTube and things like that. They're actively having fun in their learning process, and that is what is allowing them to retain the information. They're actively enjoying the process of being educated, and that's what is allowing them to retain the information. Everybody ain't meant to be your teacher, and everyone teacher is not meant to have every student. So when I look at, if I was, things that I feel like futuristic, because I don't see this happening this year. But I said this in terms of even like pairing bosses and employees. So for a parent standpoint, the parents that are open, pull your chart, your children's birth chart, pull your children's birth chart, pull their birth chart and look, or get an astrologer to look at their Mercury, look at their third house. This is going to show their communication style and how they learn. This is going to be how they learn, how they learn simple concepts, how they learn simple concepts as their third house and their Mercury. Jupiter in their ninth house is going to indicate how they learn more advanced concepts, more higher learning. Learning how they learn, learning how they communicate will help them understand how to move in school. It will help you to communicate with the teachers, because that's where that partnership comes into play. If you know that your child does not do well with lecture, they can't sit through a lecture, they need tactile learning, then you need to be able to communicate that. But if you don't even know how your child is going to learn, how do you communicate that to the teacher? You can't. You can't. You can't communicate it to the teacher. You need to be able to communicate with the teacher your child's learning style. And so that y'all can come up with a plan on how they're going to learn together. You don't have to be neurospicy to need a plan of how you're going to be successful. Everybody should have a plan to be successful, and you should be able to know how to communicate that, meaning that you have to learn your child's learning style, and understanding that learning styles change periodically. So you need to take time to learn your child over time, having conversations with them. Periodically, you try to teach them something, because then when you see what works and what doesn't work, then you can share that information with the teacher. I know this is something that can work because I do it with the specialists and the clinicians that work with my sons for ABA. I will tell them they're working on a specific thing. And if there's something that I was able to do to get that thing to resonate at home, I share that. And they do the same thing. Hey, I know you've been working on ... and you've been finding it challenging. I figured out that if you do it this way, he's able to do it successfully. Learning the child's learning style, learning their communication style. What modes of communication are going to work with them? How do you need to communicate back and forth with each other so that y'all are understanding each other and on one accord? And also, stop hexing your kids. Like, real talk, stop hexing your children. So many of you don't know how to use positive language when you speak on your children. You don't know how to do it. And I know from, at least in a Black community perspective, that again is a generational cycle that stems from a protection mechanism. We didn't say certain things about our children back because it wasn't safe. It wasn't safe for your child to stand out. It wasn't safe for your child to be special, because if they were too special and they stood out too much, they got sold. This is a generational cycle. This is a wound. Oh, you don't want, no, pick somebody else, not my child. Don't pick my child. No, don't pick my child. It's okay now. It's okay for us to encourage our children to shine. It's okay for us to encourage our children to stand out. It is absolutely okay for our children to continue to be successful and stand out amongst their peers. But we have to stop hexing our kids. We have to, like, from the moment, and it's like from the moment, oh my, that child is so needy. Oh, my broke best friend. Oh, my child is bad. Or like, it's like the moment they exist, the moment they come into existence, the people that are supposed to say the best things about them are the people who say the worst things about them. No one understands. You can't use that kind of language in relation to my children. And I know that's a habit. I know certain people who do it. They don't do it because it's malicious. They do it because that's what they're programmed to do. They don't, that the language comes out automatically. They automatically say, oh, well, this child is this. That's what we're not going to do. What we're not going to do is ever curse my kids. Ever. I don't care who you are. Oh, there's what's the thing? Like, if kids ask, like when the kids come and give hugs and then they're like, they want to ask for something. Oh, that's a con man. Let me just, like, here we go. Here goes a spiritual correlation. So your kids come to you. They say something nice to you. They hug you. They do something nice for you prior to asking you for something. For my spiritual folks, watching and listening. What's that sound like they did first? See, this is where y'all miss that the kids understand their relationship with the Most High. You ain't ever got to teach a child who God is. They know how to move with spirit already. We're the ones that cut them off from spirit. Your child comes to you. I told Rob, your child comes to you. And before asking you for something, they may have cleaned up something. They may have, like, they give gratitude first. They have hugged you. So they cleaned up something. They hugged you. They say, I love you. Like snuggle up on you, give you kisses before asking you for something. When you give something prior to asking for something, when you're working with your spiritual court, what have you given? You have given an offering. Your children are giving you offerings before asking you for something. They're not trying to con you. They are still moving in oneness with spirit and understand the spiritual realm. They simply can't communicate it that way. And since they also recognize that you are of spirit and you are the largest, the most prominent reflection of the creator in their life, because you help create them, they are giving you ebo prior to asking you for something. They're not trying to con you. They're giving you reverence. They may not understand that that's what they're doing in a conscious sense, but unconsciously, that's what they're doing. They're giving you an offering and then asking you for something. And even if you can't in that moment, because spirit doesn't always move that in real time, you can still, be appreciative of the offering. I received this offering. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this. And then move accordingly as you need to. But this whole, like, your kids are trying to scam you and con you because they did something nice to you. I need us to stop hexing our children. I need us to stop putting language like they're con men and scammers and they're spoiled and things like that. We need to absolutely stop trying to hex our children because we've been entirely too effective in that vein. We've been entirely too effective in that vein. And I say this often, and I have to give gratitude to my parents and to their Oris, because my parents never spoke that way. Hey, Ted sister. My parents never spoke that way about us. They never spoke that way about us. And they made this connection with my dad. He was like, we never told y'all how to act in public. And I know that didn't. That whole, like, don't you go embarrassing me in public. My parents never did that. Never did that. And I know some of you are like, well, I grew up fine, yeah, but you still grew up abused. And I'm sorry to say it to you. Like, I watched some of y'all. Some of y'all was abused and you just refused to admit it. Like, you just, like, so I've been to some of y'all houses, and like, looking back at some of y'all, I knew it as a child. This ain't right. I knew it as a kid. That ain't right. I would be excited to go home because what I didn't want to do is be in that energy. Some of y'all were abused as children, and you think simply because you were semi-functional adults, you weren't abused. There are plenty of people who were abused and know that they were abused that are semi-functional adults. It doesn't negate the fact that they were abused. Sorry, not sorry. I'm sorry, and I'm also not sorry. We have to do better for our children. And this whole notion that we have to put our child's weaknesses on display, that we have to put them on display, period, but definitely in the vein that putting their weaknesses on display, putting their areas of opportunity on display, that is so tacky. That is so absolutely disgusting to me. It is protect children, period. You protect them not just physically, you protect their mental, emotions, and spirit. And you sitting around talking about how much children suck and how you are the one creating that. What you speak becomes a reality. What you speak becomes a reality. So the more you speak about this thing, that thing, this thing, that is the reality at which you are manifesting. Me, pregnant, rubbing my belly. Mommy has a 146 IQ. You're going to have a 186 IQ. Every pregnancy, Gabriel included, every pregnancy. You're going to be a genius. Mommy's a borderline genius. You're going to be a genius. You're going to be gifted. I can't be mad when my son figures out the PIN number on my iPad and figures out how to add apps on my iPad. Like, it's annoying, yes, but I can't be mad because I literally said, you're going to be a genius. I said that. You're going to be a genius. You're going to be a genius. My children being autistic doesn't negate their genius. They're absolutely geniuses. They're absolutely geniuses. I'm learning how to come into their world so that they know how to live in ours. And recognizing even more now how neurodivergent I am, and I don't have a diagnosis, but watching them and then seeing them and then talking to their doctors and then like occupational therapy. My third grade teacher wanted to put me in special ed because I can't pencil a pencil quote unquote correctly. I can't do it, but I had the neatest handwriting in class. But she just wanted me. But she was also hung up on me having extracurricular activities that she wasn't willing to pay for. So there was that too. But she's like trying to get me in special ed because I can't hold a pencil. I didn't know this was a thing until my son. And in occupational therapy,
say cheese.
Not cheese. Bye. Okay. Now go. The iPad's not charged yet. It's not ready yet. It's not ready. So I didn't know this was a thing. No knowledge. Why? Because it wasn't until 2014 that, good morning. It wasn't until 2014 that it became a thing for children to be tested and get the resources they need in order to be successful in life. So now my son's in occupational therapy. She's talking about how he holds his pencil, and I'm learning, oh my God, my teacher wasn't just being a jerk. Her language was like a jerk, but it wasn't just that. Had she communicated it differently to my parents, they may have understood it was a sign that I might be autistic because I couldn't hold my pencil correctly. My handwriting was exceptionally neat. Even my son's handwriting is exceptionally neat. His is big, but it's neat. You can read it. And this is a lot for a boy. He's got really neat, both of my sons, really neat handwriting. This holding the oh no. And I had to show her. I took her pen and showed her, like, I can't do what you're doing with your pen. I can't do it. I absolutely can't do it. I can't make my fingers do that. And the only reason there wasn't something that interceded when I was younger is how the teacher communicated it to my parents. If she hadn't been a jerk, my parents may have done something differently. I know somebody else where exceptionally was just like bomb grades, just like amazing, always gifted, amazing grades and gifted. And all of a sudden they hit this wall. Good morning, they hit this wall. And parents got them tested. And so they had a learning disability. It wasn't they couldn't learn. It wasn't that they were a bad student. It wasn't that they were a failure. They needed extra. In fact, what they needed was harder work. That's what they needed. The work they were getting was not holding them. They needed harder work. And I know some people like, what? Like, again, you have to meet the child where they are. If they're bored, they're not going to do it. Like, it's boring. Give me something else to do. Hi there. Give me something else to do. And they put my friend in advanced class, and they graduated salutatorian. It had nothing to do with the teacher they had. It had nothing to do with their ability to learn, want to learn, or do the work. It had everything to do with what they were doing was boring. They needed something more. And they had to go ahead and be put in a more advanced class. And then they were, and my sons are probably very much like that. I won't be surprised if my sons don't end up the same way. Like, this is boring. I don't want to do this. You gotta, like, we're not running the ABCs over and over again because both of my sons read. We're not doing ABCs. We're not doing sounds. We might do blended. We might do blended sounds, but they do very well sounding words out well beyond their age anyway. Why? Because my sister, from the moment they were born, if she said something to them, she over enunciated it. So she was sounding words out from the moment they met. Yes, and I need to be challenged too. And I feel like that's why I started classes for a degree. in metaphysics, and I hadn't been able to focus because I'm just like, but I know this. And I'm like, and the illogic is like, I should just go ahead and finish the exam and get the degree and then I'll be done. Like, I should just do the exam and be done. And it's like, this is boring. It's not holding my attention. I can't learn this way. Like, I cannot learn from a boring teacher. I can't. I can't. I can't. I can't. I can't. Some people can learn from a boring teacher. I cannot. I cannot. I cannot learn from a boring teacher. So a lot of times the reason I did well is not necessarily that the teacher was a good teacher. It's because my mother always had us doing extra work at home. So generally speaking, especially elementary school and middle school, I was almost always ahead of where the class was because that's what my mother did. Like she, like literally the beginning of the school year, get our books and like go jump ahead. And that's what I would like, that's what I would do. She also taught techniques to help retain information. And I never got that at school. I didn't get techniques to retain information at school. So I didn't get techniques like that at school. I got them at home. But if you're not someone who knows how to retain information, if you were not good at studying as a child, you can't teach it to your child. But somebody needs to teach them. Somebody needs to teach the child how to study for themselves so they retain information. So for me personally, I still learn very much the same way I did as a kid. I like to play school as a kid, but playing school as a kid is also what helped me learn or retain the information. I need to take the information in and then give it back out. That's why I always answered questions in class, because I needed to make sure to solidify the learning. I had to be able to teach it. And from an elementary, middle school, and high school perspective, the way you do that is you answer the questions in class. You answer the questions in class, and that's what helps you to retain the information. So here goes back to this classroom. If you have a teacher and you have a student who's always answering questions and you don't want them to answer the question, you may be stunting their learning because that's how they're retaining the information. They have to repeat the information. Here go echolalia, showing for people who have a speech a speech delay. My sons echo. So I say something, they echo it back to me. That's how they're learning it. They echo. They echo. Children have been echoing adults since when they first start echoing sounds. That is how a lot of children learn, is they learn through the echo. So when you ask questions of class, they go ahead and raise that up. Yes, that was me taking everything I learned. Come on, y'all want to play school? Sure. And I'm teaching them the things that I learned in school. That is absolute. That's me. All very much the same way now. If I learn something, especially if I learned it and really enjoyed it, if I learned something, I absolutely have to teach it almost immediately. Especially if I was excited to learn it. That's one of those good times when I go live. Like, yo, let me tell you what I learned and let me teach it to you. Let me tell you what I learned and let me teach it to you. Yes, ready to tell the world, like I gotta teach it to you because I learned this thing, and now you gotta learn the thing because that's how I'm going to instill the learning. When I was in advanced chemistry, I thought my teacher was amazing, and she graded on a curve. And so I liked her as a person. I enjoyed the way she taught. She made advanced chemistry exciting for me. But the thing was, my mother had already taught me how to retain information. She doesn't understand how significant this was, but I have an air ruled third house. No, sorry, a Mercury ruled third house. Virgo rules the third house in my birth chart. For those who just jumped in, I talked about learning your child's learning style of communication so that you can communicate that to their teacher, so that the teacher knows how to support them in their learning. So I have a Virgo Mercury ruled third house. So Mercury, communication, writing. My mother told me to write notes. So that's what I did. I wrote copious amounts of notes. She taught me how to listen and write the notes effectively so that I could catch the key words that would make me remember synchronicities, signs, symbols, certain things to trigger me to remember the information. So when it came to like advanced chemistry was oh, thank you. Advanced chemistry, by the time I had perfected studying, I didn't study in advanced chemistry. I wrote notes in class. I wrote notes in class, and that's it. That is all I did, is I wrote notes in class. And the day before an exam, she did the same thing every exam. And because I guess I've always been a little psychic, but and part of that is being able to recognize patterns. I recognized the pattern. So I recognized the pattern. So I started to pay attention. She not only quizzed us the day before the exam, it was the exam in order, verbatim. Let me say that again. She quizzed us with the exam, every exam, the day before, in order, verbatim. She had the audacity not even to move the questions around. And so by the time the exam time came, because I'm claircognizant, and I have 146 IQ, I just didn't study. I just paid attention well enough that by the time class, I always finished first. And so she liked to grade on a curve, and I just told her, like, after class when they stop including me, because I'm gonna blow it every time. Just don't factor me in, because I'm just telling you now, I'm gonna get 100 on every exam you give me. I'm gonna get 100, and so my average in advanced chemistry was like 115, like some crazy thing like that, because I never got less than 100, never. And I didn't study. I didn't pick my pick up. I was not sitting at home with organic chemistry studying at home. I'm not telling that lie. I'm not telling that lie. I took taking, I retain the information. If I write it down, I will remember it. If I write it down, I will remember it. That's helped me with, like, someone asked last week during my anniversary live about me learning Odoo. What helped me learn Odoo? And you're lecturing and you're boring, and you've got a student in your classroom who needs to learn through, like, with music playing, and you don't want them to have earbuds in, or an earbud in, so they have both your ear, they have one of your ears and music has the other ear, where their mind, because that's two different sides of the brain working, but now they're working at full capacity and they can learn and accept the information. They can learn and retain the information. But because you haven't learned their learning style and learned what things it's going to take to help them to both be engaged in the learning process and retain what they're being taught, it's not sticking for them. So when I take something like Oriki, Orikis are praise poems for the Orishas. So when I sing them, I couldn't learn it saying it. I had to sing it so I could retain it. It had to become music. So I sing them, and the ones I sang often, I retain them. Yes, yes, yes. And that's the thing. Like, so, you know, that's why I didn't stitch the original person video for those who just joined in. This I didn't record this because honestly, I'm just trying to save space on my phone and my laptop. That's being honest. It just keeps me from having to, like, upload. So I'm being lazy. But there's a video circling around where teachers talking about the reading level of their students and how they're in middle school, but they're still reading at an elementary school grade level. And the conversation started with a vent because I said, first off and foremost, if you don't like kids, just say that. And to stop it, like, number one, stop embarrassing children on the internet. Like, stop doing that. Like, that's just absolutely disgusting. And it is protect children always for me. So stop doing that disgusting. So stop putting their meltdowns on the internet. Stop putting their quote unquote shortcomings on the internet. Like, stop using the areas of opportunity, challenge, growth, healing of children as clout, because it's disgusting. It is absolutely disgusting. If there is something going on within your classroom where you're seeing a trend and these kids are not reading, then what you need to do is see what is it going to take to help get them reading on their level? Where did the ball fall short? And what can you do to support them? Pull the teachers and parents in a room and say, hey, our kids are falling behind. What can we do? What is it going to take for us to help get these kids up? But putting the kids' business out in the street so that the whole world is looking at them like, oh, all of y'all stupid, that's disgusting. And karma is a thing. And if you're someone like, well, we should know, you should know behind closed doors, everything it got to be yeah, it should be public to the kids and the parents. It should absolutely be known to those kids and those parents. Now, if you want to say something about, hey, here are some solutions that I have found that worked in my classroom because I realized the kids were not reading where they needed to do, and these are things that I implemented. This is a thing that you post on social media, so that maybe some other teachers and parents can implement the thing. But to sit there and rate these kids, because that's who's most impacted by it. It's not the parents, it's the children who are going to be most impacted by that video. It's the children. And it's like disgusting. And it's like the one school, I can't remember if it's Texas or Alabama, where they sat and brought all the Black children in the auditorium, brought all the Black children. And that's why I opened part of this up to saying Black parents and Black teachers need to stop holding slave masters' whip, set it on fire, and find a better way to communicate to and about your children so that our children can be successful in life, because they already got enough things they got to deal with. They shouldn't have to deal with their parents being slave masters. They shouldn't have the teachers being colonizers. They shouldn't have to deal with that. And if you don't realize that you are enacting white supremacy when you do these things, then you're just being willfully obtuse, and I don't believe you. At 2023, if you're anything older than the age of 35, you know that you are enacting white supremacy as a Black teacher, and you just simply need to stop or stop teaching. One of the two. Period. So you're sitting there and you're learning things to do to support the children, and they try and fail. It's better than not trying at all. Try and fail. Like, okay, let's try this thing. Well, that didn't work. Okay. Why I say that? Because I keep having to do it with my own kids. And it's stressful and it's tiresome. But if this is the thing that you said you wanted to do with your life, like you said, I want to do this with my life. I want to support the development and growth of children. I want to see them be successful. I want to see them not surviving, but thriving. And I most especially as a Black teacher want to see my Black children be stars and shine in this world. And me using language that the slave masters would have used talking about my ancestors back in the day is not going to help them grow and flourish. It's simply not. It's simply not going to help them grow and flourish. So at some point we have to do better for our kids. So when they took those Black children, those beautiful Black children, only the Black children in that auditorium, and said, Black children aren't performing well. And this is a real thing. You can go look it up. This is actually it's like a real school system pulled all the Black children and told the Black children aren't performing well. One, all Black people need therapy for PTSD. I don't care how old they are. Epigenetics in our RNA, we are holding trauma from centuries of abuse. This is why a child that's born to a parent that was abused as a child may end up birthing children who react like they're an abusive parent when they're not. Like it's in their blood to expect to be abused. We have to recognize that our children are also experiencing this trauma, whether they tell you or not. I am 44 years old, and my mother is only just now learning things that I didn't tell her as a kid. I am 44. And I will say, she's like, you didn't tell us that. Why didn't you tell us that? And you ask your child why they didn't tell you. They can't tell you because it's not a conscious decision. Because for me, it wasn't a conscious decision. It was an unconscious reaction. There was something already predating, like it's not safe for me to communicate this information. It is not safe for me to communicate this information. This is why we do shadow work. This is why your children, once they're able to need inner child work already. Go ahead and do the work, not from a healing aspect, but helping them to retain their childhood. Help them retain it, especially Black children, because oftentimes Black children are treated like we are older than we actually are. Always. Always. That is a system that came from slavery. And a lot of times our parents will enact it on us. They will enact that same abuse upon us. Thank God my parents weren't like that. Like some things were just a matter of this was what it had to be. My parents had to work, and when I was old enough to where I could be the one at home with the kids, my siblings, then I was. But there was at no point where I felt like I had to mother my sisters. That just never was a thing. That was not a thing. I just watched my siblings while my parents were at work. But I know certain friends of mine, I'm like, they had to parent their sibling. They had to parent their sibling because it was a cycle. And it just continued with them. And then they do it to their own children. Kids that had to work when our parents were younger because our parents were poor and they really had no choice. You have a choice. Your children don't have to go ahead and have high blood pressure at 15, 16 years old because they hate their job. Okay. I'm coming. Come here. Put your hand on your head. It's okay. Okay, ready? Okay. Say my head is better. My head is better. Better? Okay, I'm coming. Jaheem, I'll talk to him. Go ahead. Okay. It's boys, brothers. Oh. Yes. Like you dislike your job. You weren't happy working at these places. But yes, let's go ahead and let our children work the holidays, be cussed at, and all these other things. And so that way they can be in their, so that all these other things, so that when they're in the 20s, they're already burnt out. Because, that's smart. That's smart. That's smart. Thank God for parents who, when I look at my peers that I grew up with, it's not that my parents were more well off than them. My parents just understood the value of education in childhood. I was like, my parents understood the value of education in childhood. So I got to be a kid. That's why I still have a good relationship with me acting like a child, because my parents let me be a kid. They let me be a kid. The few times that I did things that, to acquire money, I didn't have to, like, my first job was after high school. And even then, my parents said, go to college. We got you. You ain't got to do this. But I'm the oldest child. And, oldest child syndrome, we don't want to be a burden. If I could tell myself anything back then, is go ahead and listen to your mom. And don't. And I loved my job. My first job was not fast food. I have never worked a fast food restaurant. My first job was in a doctor's office, making $10 an hour. And I know people now who are struggling trying to get just to $10 an hour. And that's what I made straight out of high school. Understanding that I didn't have to be stressed out. I didn't have to work for a boss I didn't like. I didn't have to do that because my parents told me to be a kid, to be a child, to enjoy childhood, so that I don't have to do a lot of, it's not that I don't have any, but I don't have to do inner child work because my parents took my childhood away, because they're perpetuating a cycle, not out of lack of love, because I don't think the situation with other people is that their parents didn't love them. This is the cycle. This is the cycle just continuing on, and they're not the one to break it. It's just a cycle that's continued, and they're not the one to break it. But I apparently come from a generation, a long line of, like, it's like from the moment slavery ended, looking at the parents and listening to things about grandparents and things like that, they immediately started breaking cycles from the gate. Like, we're just going to go ahead and break cycles immediately. We're not caring. We're going to do everything we can to try to remove this trauma from our bloodline as best as we possibly can. They didn't hit everything, but it was like, I'm going to break this cycle. And I'm going to break this cycle. And I'm going to break this cycle. And so it just keeps going forward. But everybody's not like that. Some people are like, oh, no, my parents were, they did all the best they could. But are you doing the best that you can now that you know better? Yeah, your parents did do the best they could. But are you doing the best that you could now that you know better? Those that know better do better. Are you doing better? Are you just going to emulate them because you're still afraid of them? Because if you're emulating them because that's what they did, then you're technically, there's something in you afraid of being different from your parents. And you should probably talk to somebody about that. So, things to help the kiddies learn their learning style. What is it going to take to help them learn? Are they someone that needs to learn through doing? Are they someone that learns through lectures? Are they someone that learns through reading? Learn their learning style. Are you the right teacher for that student? Here's where.
Mommy, can you push for a Donkey Force toy?
No, because you have another toy coming today. No, you can. You're gonna get a wolf sometime, hopefully today. So no. But learning also, are you paired well? Like, are you a teacher that can teach in a tactile way effectively? Because if you can't, and you got a bunch of kids that are tactile learners, then guess what? You're not the right teacher for them. You're not the right teacher. It's not that you're a bad teacher. You're not the right teacher. They need a different teacher so that they can learn. It's like, you don't fit in this dynamic. So let's make sure you're someplace. What that phrase, like, grow where you're planted? No, this is why we repot plants. This is so that they can grow and be nourished. So you've got a child that's in this pot, aka
Mommy,
classroom, and they're not growing and being nourished.
Mommy.
You repot them. You don't continue to let them die in that classroom. You repot them. You repot them so that they can be growing and nourished. But learning their learning style, what is it going to take for them to learn? How are they to retain information? How can they help it that they enjoy learning? That's a partnership. That's a tag team effort between parent and teacher. That's a tag team effort between parent and teacher, because that's the only way it's going to work. If it's a tag team effort, this is a partnership. And understanding, as parents, we are partners in the life of our child. We're not slave masters.
Mommy.
Jelani, out my room if you can't be quiet.
No.
Okay. We're not slave masters. We're not holding masters'
Mommy,
whip.
go to McDonald's.
We'll see if you be quiet while I'm finishing up, then maybe I will.
So, do not go and chase her. There's birds in the birdhouse.
Okay, cool beans. Grand Rising, hey Vicky. Understanding their learning style, understanding, are they planted in the right classroom, or should they be in a different classroom with a different teacher? And not taking it personal. You're not their teacher. You're not their teacher. You're not the one meant to teach them. They're meant to grow and flourish someplace else. That's okay. And here's where, like, this is why our human, mundane, muggle life is not separate from our spiritual life. We've got the tools to learn who these children are in a spiritual perspective.
Mommy, where's my grandma?
You watch the TV in the living room.
No.
Well, it's not your turn.
Can you ask him?
No, because it's not your turn. It'll be your turn later.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. Okay, it's fine.
We can't give it back. She was watching TV in the living room.
Tell Joe he can come here.
She can come here.
He can't hear you. You gotta walk to him. Learning how y'all pair well. Like, this is where, here goes my here's the Aquarius coming out. The Aquarius is emerging. The Aquarius says it would be really dope if Board of Education had a set of astrologers and numerologists on the team. And those numerologists and astrologers could pair teachers and students based upon their energetic signatures to ensure that teachers and students are paired more effectively in their classrooms. Because your third house and your ninth house also indicate your teaching style.
To come here.
So if you have, synastry charts, do these go together? Does this student go well in this classroom? Are they going to flourish with the way this teacher teaches? No, they'll put them someplace else. That's my look. Someone take that. That's my Aquarius. That's my Aquarius. I feel the same way about companies. I feel like corporate America, any job, company, especially when you have multiple managers and multiple groups and teams, you have someone in the HR, recruiting, or things of that nature that can do astrology and numerology and help you cultivate the energy of the team based upon those energies. So that way that team is more successful and is a more harmonious team. Just a thought, somebody take that. I'm putting it in the ethers. I'm putting it in the ethers. I'm putting it in the ethers, right? Because then your spiritual, here you go, because then your spiritual folk won't feel like they have to quit their corporate America jobs. There would be a position from them in corporate America that aligns with them spiritually, and thus you keep the same that good energy within your workforce, as opposed to them always feeling like they have to go and work for someone else. Jaheem, come here, please. So that, look, you know what? Having a Virgo stellium, I don't doubt that. 80 that sounds like a Virgo stellium. Yes. Jaheem, can you watch TV in the living room?
Yes.
Okay, you go watch TV in the playroom. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you both. Thank you so much for your thank you for your assistance in that matter. But you have somebody that can do that. You have someone in the school. Here you go. Here's now here this is now me just spiritually spitballing before I get off. So Jaheem, the remote's I think on the table. I think I don't know. It's somewhere in there. The remote is in there. Um, so spiritual spitballing. So you have people in the school that are Reiki masters. You have people in school that are Reiki masters. You need Reiki masters and astrologers in the school. Why? Because you need to pay attention to transits. You need to pay attention to transits because certain transits are going to treat children a little bit differently. Children are going to move different during certain transits. Good morning. Certain transits are going to impact these children much differently. What personal year is this child in? What? It's not stolen. Jaheem, please give Jelani the remote for the playroom. There you go. That's easy. Go get it. Jaheem, go get the TV remote and give it to Jelani. So then you have Reiki masters that periodically come to the school and make sure the energy of the school is what well. Because, for those that don't know, Reiki is not simply just for the person. You can give Reiki to anything. So now you have people that are making sure that you are keeping it cleansed. You have people who know how to do a spiritual floor wash. And so that you have floor washes that you give to maintenance so they can do what? Cleanse the building. Cleanse the building. Cleanse the building. Because you got all the energy needs to be cleansed.
Find the remote. Practice it. Move, please.
Yeah. No, you could on a good day, if I think about it in enough time, I will just do my throat chakra so that every time I speak, y'all get good energy. So my voice gives you Reiki. So understanding that, yes, like real talk, like this is I'm talking about school, but this really could be applied anywhere. Like I said, I would love to just be of service and give office buildings Reiki and spiritual cleanse them. Like once a month, I just come and that's what I do. I come and give your office building Reiki and spiritually cleanse it. Um, like I do that. You want to protect, line, here we go, put some red brick dust and some black salt all around the school. I'm just saying, set the atmosphere. Making sure you have have some blue crystals up in the corners, some clear quartz in the corners of the classrooms, so that what blue crystals, your mind, thoughts, clarity, clear quartz, clarity. I'm just saying, you can merge. It's not a separate world. The worlds go together. The worlds go together. The worlds go together. And then like understanding that your children are not disconnected from source. So if your energy is effed up, and or it's just the vibration is off. You're vibrating here like this, and they're vibrating like this. Y'all energy ain't in sync. But if you have a teacher that's vibrating like this and a student that's vibrating like this, well, now their energy is in sync. And then when the teacher's teaching, they're receiving what the teacher is putting down. They're able to take that teacher's energy in. They're able to take in, like, oh, okay, I can learn from you. And y'all know it. Like, there are teachers you could learn from and teachers you could not learn from. If you learned anything, chances are you didn't learn it from that teacher. You learned it through study or from your parents. You did not learn from that teacher. You did well in that teacher's class, but you didn't actually learn from that teacher. And then there are other teachers, you learned from that teacher. And you did because when you got older and you could drive, you went back to visit. You went back to visit. If that teacher transitioned, you went to their funeral. That teacher taught you. That teacher educated you. But then we go and we have children and we act like we don't remember that certain teachers didn't resonate with us. It wasn't our ability to learn. It wasn't us being a good student. It was, do you resonate with that teacher? Yes. And once a teacher, always a teacher. I think it's really dope. One, it just says how well I'm aging, but I think it's really dope when I run into teachers from elementary school, middle school, and not always my teachers. Like when we were little, my sisters and I looked much more alike. And so their teachers recognize me. Their teachers recognize me. Their teachers like, Miss Morgan. And I'm like, yes. And I'm like, locks of glasses. My face is still my face. Locks of glasses. My face is still my face. Thank you for the gifts. Thank you. And it's a face. Yay. Thank you for the glitter badge. Thank you so much. My face is still my face. My teachers, like they know. I ran into a teacher from high school. I ain't seen her in ages. Hadn't seen her in ages. Tanya. And I'm like, ooh, hey. And I'm like, hey. That my face is still my face. And I'm grateful that the teachers I had in high school really were like, they were teachers. Like they like shouts out to A.R. Johnson, the best little high school in Augusta, GA. My teachers were teachers. Like there wasn't a teacher I had that I don't think I could not have effectively learned from. There was only one subject where, and I think it challenged me in that it challenged me. And being someone who is gifted and is used to things just being easy, the fact that it was a challenge made me want to run. That was it. It made me want to run. And what I needed was someone to help me to not run from the challenge, but to go stand forward. And because, if someone told me that on the other side of fear and challenge was my genius, and they told me that as a kid, that would have shaped so many things differently. And I probably would have been higher in my class. I probably would have been higher in my class had that been the case. If someone had said it to me in my teens when I was going through a lot of trauma, it's like on the other side of my fear is my genius.
Alafia.
Oh! Wait. Did y'all hear my son? Please tell me y'all heard.
Alafia.
Alafia, Jaheed. Oh,
great job, mommy.
Great job.
Fa.
Oh my God.
A two.
Oh.
Wow, mommy's laughing.
Oh my God. Oh Lord. Oh man. Okay.
300.
I'm like, like.
Seven.
Like y'all know, both my sons on the spectrum, but he's the one with the more severe speech delay. So when he does stuff like that, it's like, okay. Okay. All right. You got it, son. You got it.
Oh, mommy's laughing.
Yes, baby. Mommy's laughing.
Hey, it's for M.
Yeah.
A two.
Hi.
A Tuesday.
Tuesday. Yes, today is Tuesday.
It's a mean speech.
Yeah. Not today. Y'all gonna go tomorrow.
Joanne's speech.
John is gonna go tomorrow too.
Joanne's going tomorrow.
Yeah, both of y'all are going to speech tomorrow.
A speech tomorrow.
Yep, speech tomorrow.
Let's race.
Yes, tomorrow you can race. Totally, look, totally got all of my mommy feelings. All got me all in my mommy feelings. My mommy feelings, all my mommy feelings, like all the mommy feels, like. And I think that's why I decided to do the video, because someone like my son, like I'm homeschooling my kids, and I chose to say that my son needed to be first grade again. Do you know how hard that is? Like he needs to be it again. And it's not that it's like the concept. I need to make sure he gets it.
98 batteries.
Yes, but I need to charge the other one first. So not ready yet. When I have 2 iPads, then I will charge it. I have to charge.
You with it.
Yes, you are. Yeah, I know. Yep. It's cool. Yep. But having to make those kind of decisions is like, hey, I need to make sure you're good before I say, let's keep going. I need to make sure you're good. And trying to find the ways that works for him is challenging. It's a lot, but you got to be up for the challenge. Like I think there's a video with a clip for Tommy Lee where he's like, someone asks, is it worth it? He's like, it's worth it if you're ready. And when it comes to our kids, like it's absolutely worth it, but you still also have to be the person that's ready. You have to be willing. You have to be ready and willing. So, inspired action for today, because y'all know I like to leave with an inspired action. And again, I wasn't doing this morning. I'm supposed to be doing admin. See this? I'm supposed to be doing admin. But what I will say, if you are someone with small humans or someone that deals with small humans, but if mostly people who have small humans, pull their birth chart. Astro.com is free. Pull their birth chart. Cafe Astrology is free and will give you an interpretation. Pull their birth chart. And just simply pick one thing to learn about your kid. Pick one thing. Learn their rising sign. Your rising sign is how you present. It can also be your mask. So pull the rising sign. If there's someone that is having some opportunities when it comes to school and learning, go look at their 3rd house and just simply learn about the zodiac sign that you see there. Just one piece. Learn about the zodiac sign. That's their early education, that's their communication and their learning. Just learn that one little piece. So if you have someone like has a Virgo in its shadow is overly analytical and it can be a perfectionist and doesn't like to make mistakes. My son that just left is a Virgo rising. He does not like to get it wrong. Getting it wrong is challenging for him. He gets very frustrated. I think in some ways I've never said to him, Jaheim, you're autistic. But I also feel like he's beginning to understand a bit more that he's slightly different. Even though he can't communicate that understanding, I could see the frustration when he's trying to communicate with me and he can't. Like I can see it. But I also looked in his chart and see that there's some Saturn and Mercury in some really challenging aspects that would affect communication and learning. So I know it's going to be a challenge that he will get through. It's going to be a challenge that we'll get through. He has come absolutely so far. So looking at just little stuff. Don't try to read the whole chart, especially if you're not an astrologer. But if you are an astrologer and you read your kids, like, what are you doing with your gift? Just pick one thing to learn. The Creator, in all her infinite wisdom, said, I know that when I incarnate as these people, they are going to forget that they're all powerful, all knowing beings. They're not going to be able to access the wealth of knowledge that I have in my just energetic body. But they got a lot of it there, but they need to know how to pull it out. So I've tapped all these other people with extra special gifts. Hey, I moved the planets in a certain way to give y'all messages. Boop, all of y'all, share the messages. Teach them how to do that so they can get that information. All of you, hey, like you may not do regular math, but you're gonna do numerology math, boop, 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 so that they can give you that information, so that they can share that information. We're not supposed to flounder. We're supposed to be working together. You don't have to be an astrologer. Find somebody that does astrology. You ain't have to be a numerologist. Find someone that does numerology. Find someone that can help you glean the information, and then you use that information for your family. One of my favorite things that someone told me, that's one of my godchildren, was that she did the numerology on herself and then did her entire family. Like she immediately, the moment she finished, she did herself and her family, and what she learned helped them improve their communication. That is why I do what I do. Like that right there. Not only is she learning herself, but then she's taking that information and we're using it with her husband, using it with her daughters, so that they are also learning themselves too. I'm not meant to be everyone's elder, godmother, mentor, guide, support. But seeds I plant are not supposed to grow just in the person that I'm giving them to. They're supposed to take the fruit, the seeds out the fruit that they receive, and plant them in others. They're supposed to plant those seeds in other people. So today, hopefully, y'all take these seeds and they bear fruit. And then you can use that fruit to nourish yourself and your kiddos. And if your teachers, like, just reach out to some parents. Like this is where if we don't try, like it's one thing, it's like I tried and it didn't work. Okay, cool. But if you try, just try and see what you can do. If you are in a role as a teacher and you're also a spiritualist and you have not figured out a way to try to incorporate your spiritual practice into, you ain't got to do any more than like, okay, when you come into class in the mornings, energetically cleanse your classroom. You ain't got to do nothing more than like just try to learn your students. Just simply try to learn them. And like, okay, you know what? I be trying to teach you this way, but it is obvious to me that that's not how you learn. And either A, I can adapt my teaching style for you individually, or B, I don't know how to do that at all. Let me call in reinforcements to help me help you so that you are still successful. That's it. That's it. Tag team, back again. Tag team. So I hope that in this long, wasn't supposed to be this long of a live. I swear, wasn't supposed to be this long of a live, but I'm glad that I did it. I am. And hopefully somebody takes something. It's like, okay, we can move differently and be more protective of our children, be more supportive of our children because they deserve it. Like, contrary to what some in religion say, there's nothing you need to do to be deserving or worthy of any of the blessings in your life. You were born deserving, you were born worthy, you were born in a line to many great things and much good fortune. So, y'all's welcome. Y'all welcome. Thank y'all for the likes. I didn't do this one for likes or gifts or anything. I really did just do it because I'm too lazy to record and save and upload and do all the things. I really did do it for that reason. But for those, if you didn't catch it from the beginning and you want to see it from the beginning, by all means, go to my YouTube channel or go to my Book of Many Faces. Both of those are linked on my website. The link is in the bio. And as always, thank you. I hope y'all all have a beautiful, beautiful, blessed, abundant, prosperous day. It's Mars Day. Go do something that you're passionate about and enjoy yourselves. Take care. Bye. Thanks for the 1111.